Shalom, shalom. The title of this lesson is called From Hellenization in the Maccabees to Paul's Jew in Greek. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect in the same Spirit. Lord willing, as a whole, that y'all can continue in sound doctrine. Shalom to the Akwaf, the sisters of this faith and this truth. Lord willing, that you continue to pursue your lot, which is being a loving and silent and virtuous wife. And Lord willing, Yahweh Shai has mercy on the other brothers and sisters not in faith. The title of this lesson is From Hellenization in the Maccabees to Paul's Jew in Greek. The root of this is the Israelites were forced into Hellenization under Antiochus, right? Epiphanes. Him forcing Greek customs on the ruling lands, right? So let's just hop right into it. Lord willing, this edifying and straight to the point. So this is First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yet many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Drop it down to verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinance. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said should die. So King Antiochus commanded all to be one people. Many Israelites that we see consented and followed Greek customs. They forsook the holy covenant, which we're about to head into Hanukkah, right? I believe next week, the 13th. This is the origin of Israelites becoming Greeks culturally. The key point, Greek in the New Testament is often not an ethnic Greek, but an Israelite who took on Greek custom, a Hellenized Jew. So Hellenization explained from the Maccabees, which you should read this first chapter, but really all through First and Second Maccabees, definitely Second Maccabees, the 6th chapter, where you'll be put to death if you was calling yourself a Jew / Israelite. So Israelites built a Greek gymnasium. Let's slide up to, because just in the same mindset Jake is in today with sports, football, and all those other extra things, this all stems from the Greek culture or Hellenization. So I'm gonna read it in the KJV and the GNT. This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. It says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Right? I'm going to read this real quick in the GNT, verse 14 and 15. They built in Jerusalem a stadium like those in the Greek cities, right? A Colosseum. Lord willing, I'm pronouncing it correctly. They had surgery performed to hide their circumcision, just like how we do surgery in America and 4 corners of the earth. Or, hey, come on. Abandoned the holy covenant, started associating with Gentiles, and did all sorts of other evil things. Now we see here 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, in verse 18. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 in verse 18, it says, is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. Let's even hit it even more in NLT. For instance, a man who was circumcised before he became a believer should not try to reverse it. And the man who was uncircumcised when he became a believer should not be circumcised now, right? And this is what Jake was doing. They got it on jewishhistory.org, where you can actually look up Hellenization history period, and you can see that some of the Israelites would sew back their foreskin on their Oscar Mayer wiener and call themselves Greeks, right? So what we see that we just read in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 14 to 15, Israelites built a gymnasium in Jerusalem according to the laws of the heathen, because they had it in their lands too. Because this same tradition followed in the Romans. They copied them, right? Because of course it's called the Greco-Rome, right? They made themselves uncircumcised. They were joined to the heathen, because when later on, if you read in this chapter, circumcised children was killed. Let me just get that if I can real quick. Let me see. Is it 53? No, it's not 53. Salaki family. Verse 60, it says, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. Right? That means she still had the mindset of following the ways of Yahweh Shem Shai. So she was put to death, and her child. So this means Israelites' identity was erased. Not all. Okay, this is why you have circumcision and uncircumcision. Circumcision abandoned. This is why when you look at it in the spirit, circumcision of the heart. Okay, Greek names, languages, and philosophies adopted by many Israelites. These Israelites in Paul's time would be called Greeks, Gentiles, or those who are afar off. So exile and Hellenization is basically Israel scattered as Gentiles. So we see throughout all the scriptures, in different points, Israel scattered among the nation. Let's just get the classic that we see in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 64, which this happened multiple different times, right? The Babylonians, the Persian Medes, and all those lands when the Babylonian ruled, or the Assyrians, the Babylonians, when the Persians, they took over the Babylonian land and many more. Then when the Greeks overtook the Persians, they took over their land and many more. Then the Romans took over all the lands that the Greek had. Okay, so this is Deuteronomy 28 verse 64. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Okay, so Israel will be scattered among all nations, and this is through different of our captivities, right? Especially if you've been, reading through the prophets, through prophecy. First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 45. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Okay? So it shows Jerusalem became desolate, and many Israelites fled and were carried away. The southern kingdom, which was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, became heavily embedded in Greek territories. So why does this matter? By the time Paul comes into play, countless Israelites lived in Corinth, Galatia, Rome, Ephesus, Thessalonica, Colossians, Athens, Cyprus, and Asia Minor. Okay? These Israelites were labeled Greeks or Gentiles because of the centuries of Hellenistic assimilation. Okay? So let me just hop over to this. Paul is really speaking to Hellenized Israelites. To understand Paul, we must understand the Maccabees. So Paul's Gentiles is speaking of the children of Israel that were scattered among the nations. So let's just go to this point of Hosea, because when you read Hosea, the first chapter, he told Hosea to get a whorish wife, synonymous with Israel, and then have 2 whorish children, synonymous with the southern and northern kingdom. So this is Hosea chapter 1, verse 10 and 11. Yet the number of the, like, you should read this whole chapter. If you got time, the chapters that you see me going to, read the whole chapter, get that history dealing with the Israelites. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea. Only Israelites was titled with that, right? The sand of the sea shall be numbered, of the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them. Now, when we go into the New Testament, it was still Israelites that knew who they was. This is a future reference, because when we got raised in America and 4 corners of the earth, we was not told that we're the people. Now that we're coming in this thing, you got these low-level heathens and other people that they're claiming they're the people, or they say that we're not the people, or this is false, right? But what did he say? Ye are not my people, there it shall be said, ye are the sons of the living power. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appointed themselves one head, which is Yahushai, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel, which goes back to Ezekiel 30, the 37th chapter. If we don't know who he is, we need the breath of life. Revelations 11 chapter, verse 8 all the way to 11, okay? Prophecy, okay? So when we look at Paul's phrase, neither Jew or Greek, let's go to Galatians 3 and 28. Wherefore the law, wait, Salaki, that's verse 24, Salaki, getting too excited. Verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushai. Who is Paul speaking to? Let's just use the scriptures to actually answer that, right? Let's read verse 28 again. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushai. So let's shoot up to verse 7. Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham. Again, only the Israelites that have true faith in Yahweh Shema Shai are the true children of Abraham. And we see, if you know the history of Abraham, where, you know, his fathers and family were serving false gods, right? Really, those false gods stem from heathens and other nations, and the Lord called him out of that and brought him to a land that he was going to promise him and his descendants after him, right? Which the Lord is calling us to come out of our heathen ways that we were raised and brought up into. So let's drop down to verse 13 and 14. And it reads, it says, Hamashiach have redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, right? Hang on a tree. For it is written, curses every one that hangeth on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Yahushua Mashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. These Gentiles, again, is dealing with the Israelites that's going to have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Let's shoot down to verse 16. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not into seed as of many, but as of one, into thy seed, which is Hamashiach. Now the seed goes back into sperma, offspring, right? So this offspring, this stock, have to come from the same lineage as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his sons. So when let's shoot down to verse 29. And if ye be Hamashiachs, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise, which they're giving you Romans 14 and 13. So all these verses tie salvation exclusively to the seed of Abraham. Paul is saying whether you remain a Jew, keep customs, or become a Greek, which is Hellenized Israelites, you are still an Israelite. I am in America, which we say on our ID, I'm an African American, or I could be Gad. We say all these names regardless wherever I'm at, right? My spirit bear witness that I am a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe and I know that I'm an Israelite through faith and lining it up with prophecy and knowing that I truly have faith in the Father and I know his actual name, and his name is only found in Israel, that I am a product, right, of someone coming out of a Gentile mindset, right, being Americanized, not being taught this from my father, my mother, or my grandparents. You are Israelites. Why? Because the Greek-speaking Israelites returned through Yahweh Shai by faith. By faith. Let's go to 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, verse 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Right? So, he's telling Israelites in Corinth, which is a Greek city, you used to be Gentiles, meaning they were Israelites who once lived as heathen under Greek customs. Let's go back and slide to what we already read, but let's just read a verse above. 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 13 to 15. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. And we know it in Sirach, either 15 or 18, that the Lord don't give us license to sin. Whereupon they built a place of exercise, a stadium, at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. This perfectly line up with the verses that we read, especially 1 Corinthians 12 and 2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto dumb idols. Right? And if you go into like a little bit of history, you could see even in the Greek captivity what people were believing in. So Paul quotes prophecy about scattered Israelites, which goes back in line with Hosea 1, 10 and 11. So let's go to Romans 9, verse 24. In Hosea chapter 1, verse 10 and 11 is speaking about Israelites. So Paul was speaking about Israelites in Romans 9, verse 24. Even us whom he have called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles, as he saith also in Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God. So Paul's Gentile is Israelites who lost their identity. Let's go to Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, verse 11 to 13. It says, wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh by hands. When you read in NLT, it is speaking about them. Let me just get this real quick. Actually, let me just go to this one right here. Ephesians 2. Where is it at? Ephesians 2. Let's get verse 11. Let's even read it in NLT. It says, don't forget that you Gentiles used to be outsiders. You were called uncircumcised heathen by the Jews, who were proud of their circumcision, even though it affected only their bodies. Speaking about the circumcision of Abraham, right? Of, the Oscar Mayer Wiener. But it says, which is done in the flesh. Wait, Salaki. Though it affect only their bodies and not their hearts, because it's even women that were of that was of the uncircumcision too, right? And it was because they cleave to the ways of the heathen, right? This is why history is very important. Now back to Ephesians 2 in the KJV, verse 12, that at that time ye were without Hamashiach, being aliens, foreigners from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having a hope and without the Most High in the world. But now in Hamashiach Yahushai, ye who sometime were far off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach. And when I was saying this earlier, you see Paul saying Jew or Greek or far off and many other, words, right? What emphasizing Israelites. So this is meaning they were Israelites who lived like Gentiles because of Hellenization, that Greek captivity affected them, and it leaded in to the Roman captivity. So why Paul said neither Jew or Greek? Because both groups are Israelites still. One group kept traditions, which we would say is circumcision. One group abandoned traditions and mixed among the nations, which would be uncircumcision. Yahushua was uniting all Israel, not other nations. So when we really stem and break this lesson down to biblical core, scatter among nations, Hellenized under Greeks. Later on, because that was being scattered, started with, in Genesis, the 28th chapter, verse 64, which was going to be a curse. But we went into captivity after captivity because of our sins and turning away from the Lord, that eventually in the Greek captivity, we got Hellenized, we lost our identity, we got called Gentiles. Basically, whatever nation we went into, we started to pick up their ways, which we do now, which Jake do in any other country they in right now. Prophets said scattered Israel would return. Yahushua sends apostles, prophets, evangelists to gather the lost sheep, right? And got fully manifested in this time, where eventually when we see in Jeremiah that the southern and northern kingdom will be in captivity together, really the north country, which is Babylon the Great, America. Paul calls them Greeks, Gentiles, uncircumcision. Paul unites them, which is neither Jew or Greek, and all become one Israel again in Yahushua. Let's just read this and then we'll close. Continuing with verse 14. It says, for he is our peace, who have made both one, and have broken down the middle wall or partition between us, right? The Jew and the Gentiles, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in the ordinance, for to make in himself of twine one new man, so making peace, in that he might reconcile both unto the Most High in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of the Most High. And the saints is Israelites. Psalms 50 and 5 and Psalms 148 verse 14. Okay, so the Maccabees explain why Paul uses the term Greek, Gentiles, those afar off, what we just read, uncircumcision, while olive branch in Romans the 9th chapter. These terms mostly refer to Hellenized Israelites scattered during the Greek and Roman periods. Paul's mission was the restoration of the dispersed southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, not the heathen nations. Even though at that time, the northern kingdom majority of the northern kingdom was in the Americas, right? But everything that was said was the pleasure of the Lord. so that the future prophecies will be fulfilled in this time. Isaiah 46:10, the Lord declared the end from the beginning, and he's going to do all his pleasure. And the pleasure is to bring back, the original branches, man, which is the Israelites as a whole, from the southern and northern kingdom, which broke into two kingdoms. But the coming of Yahweh Shai, this is going to be one kingdom, man. So all praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, this is edifying. From the Maccabees to Paul's Jew and Greek. All praise to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well through the Spirit. And a mighty shalom to the hopeful elect scattered folk on this earth, Lord willing, as a whole, that shall continue in sound doctrine. Shalom to the Aquaf, the sisters of this faith that believe, Lord willing, that you continue to be diligent and pursue your lot. And Lord willing, Yahweh Shai has mercy on the other brothers and sisters that's not in faith. Shalom, shalom. Abba, Abba.